Eventually, somebody is going to come into that company and they're going to look underneath the hood and they're going to say, oh, we generated 1,000 leads this quarter. And how many of those actually became real opportunities and eventually became close won revenue? You have to combine your CRM data and the ad channel data. So you cannot just rely on what the ad channels say, because they're always going to lie. They're always going to try to take credit, right? Pixels overcount. So there's a whole breadth of opportunity in terms of thinking about offers and getting creative and just putting a different spin on things and actually thinking about the entire experience and not just, oh, I signed up for an ebook, they didn't become an SQL. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of Performance Therapy. We are talking today about why your SaaS ads are driving junk leads and how to fix it. I'm Silvio Perez. I am the founder and CEO of AdConversion. And joining me today is
Gonçalo Prates, the head of performance at AdConversion.
So this is a new show, and this is episode 1 where we're going to dive deep into the things that we struggle with as performance marketers, the daily pains and so on and so forth. So enjoy the ride, and let's focus on how to fix lead quality in this episode. So Gonçalo, we have experienced this through and through in the agency every single day with our clients, trying to drive leads, and the quality is really bad. I've got a few talking points here just to remind us, because I'm sure we're gonna go down the rabbit hole and start ranting. So I'll try to keep us honest. And oftentimes, people deal with this issue where they're optimizing for cost per lead instead of cost per MQL or cost per SQL. Why don't you just kick us off and break down your experience with that dilemma?
Yeah, I mean, it's common that brands are often focused on what they see in the platforms, right? In the ad channels. And that's often what you see. You see cost per lead, you see how many leads you're driving. You can even spot check the titles. But that doesn't tell you much, because at the end of the day, no one cares at your company if you're driving 10 leads, 100 leads, 1,000 leads. They care about quality, they care about pipeline, they care about money. And that's usually the challenge. Like, okay, should we pause one campaign to the detriment of the other because of a high CPL? Maybe not, because maybe that campaign is driving quality, And that's usually the disconnect, and where we, on the agency side, we need to educate the client and help them throughout that process, because maybe they had a better experience in the past, and now I'm getting on a rant already, but maybe they had a better experience in the past, or maybe their previous agency, or they were working in-house and they weren't, their mindset wasn't built to look past that. So that's where we step in, and we need to educate them and make them realize that lead quality matters. And that's not always what you see in the platforms.
One client comes to my mind right now where they were scaling up market, and they were going through this, they were going from this SMB model, lower mid-market, where they're used to having more volume and just driving leads, and tracking the number of leads generated every single day was an important metric for them. If that's you right now and you're in that, and you're making the transition going up market, you have to be careful, because as you go up market, the emphasis on lead quality becomes even greater. And I remember, and you know who I'm talking about, but there was a daily emphasis on leads generated, and when there was a day or two where the lead count was lower, or God forbid there was no leads generated that day, it was full pandemonium, right? Everyone freaking out. Where are the leads? What's going on? And then just hyper focus on the cost per lead. And one of the things that we always say internally with clients is eventually revenue will come calling. So you can go for a long time just focusing on leads and cost per lead and avoiding the lagging metrics that actually manifest into real business impact. But eventually somebody is going to come into that company and they're going to look underneath the hood and they're going to say, oh, we generated 1,000 leads this quarter. How many actually became a sales qualified lead, and how many of those actually became real opportunities and eventually became close won revenue? So if you are falling in that trap, just want to preface that, because we see it all the time. So if you are going up market and you're shifting your dynamics, or if you've changed pricing, or if you've launched a new product or new competitors that entered the market, all of these things are going to impact your ability to drive leads and, of course, the associated cost per lead. So let's just dive in a little bit here. And I'm looking here at my talking points. One of the huge, like biggest traps is people focus on in-platform metrics where they're optimizing for cost per lead as reported in the channel. So for example, LinkedIn says you're profitable, but your CFO says you're broke, you know, and you're like at a loss for words because you're like, what do you mean? I'm crushing it.
All
LinkedIn
channels say you're crazy right away.
What do you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you just rely on the metrics you see across all the channels where you're running ads, all of them will most likely say you're being profitable because they want you to put more money there. So you can't leave it there. You have to drive deeper. You have to check your CRM data. And yeah, that's an important topic because on the front end, you might be seeing a low CPL and you're happy. Even the quality of the titles matches, but maybe not even your POC. If you're at an agency or maybe your boss, maybe higher ups, I'm talking about leadership now, they might, the metrics, there might be some disconnect between the metrics you and your direct point of contact are looking at or your team, but then leadership is looking at other metrics. So even though, to your point, if someone is saying, oh, we just want to drive leads, awesome, but just know that even if that person's boss is happy with leads, if that person leaves the company, if that person gets fired, gets laid off, someone joins, and that's where you mentioned, like, they will be looking, okay, you drove these many leads, how many of those turn into pipeline? And we had that the other day, right? Where another person stepped in, a new VP, and guys, this is awesome, but the lead to SQL rate sucks.
Yeah.
And we know why it sucks, but for that person seeing it for the first time without any context, that will get you in trouble. So it's not even about optimizing or not just relying on those metrics for your day-to-day. It's also too, because if you do it, you'll get in trouble eventually. Yeah. It's a matter of time, right? And if the business is crushing, they're not relying as much on paid media. Maybe you're doing fine because no one cares if things are going well. But once things start going south, that's when they start asking questions. That's when they start connecting the dots. Guys, we invested 100K on paid ads. We got these many leads, 0 pipeline. Yeah. What's broke, right? And at that point, it's too late.
100%.
You're already running behind.
One absolute critical thing that if you're watching this and you take one thing from this episode, you have to combine your CRM data and the ad channel data. So you cannot just rely on what the ad channels say because they're always going to lie. They're always going to try to take credit, right? Pixels overcount. They're biased towards trying to drive more revenue, right? From ad dollars associated to them. You have to combine what LinkedIn says or Google or Meta, or whatever the platform is, with the CRM, combine them together into some sort of dashboard. So you can see I spent X, I generated Y, and you're able to make the associations. Even if you're not able to do last touch association, if you're running a lot of brand awareness, you can at least see overall, hey, I spent X dollars in this period. It generated Y pipeline, which closed into Z revenue. And now you can start to understand overall what's my efficiency in terms of my pipe to spend, right? My performance metrics, et cetera. But bringing these two different things together is critical. So you can actually start to make real decisions, right? And then you don't fall into these scenarios.
Yeah.
So
because
I think
your point, the CFO doesn't look at the ad channels. They see how much is going out of the company and how much they're making. They don't care about whatever Google says, right? That's for us. That's for the performance teams at the companies. The other people don't care. They just want, yes, they want attribution. They want to know what's working and what isn't. But it doesn't matter if you're saying this channel is working if they're looking at the real numbers and they see it's not. So yeah, it's a losing fight if you just rely on those.
That's a good point. So now that we've scarred people, and hopefully, you know, everyone's getting the point that you cannot just measure cost per lead and that be it. Let's talk about how to actually improve lead quality. So the first place my brain goes is targeting. You know, so what does great targeting actually look like? And I think we can get pretty tactical here. So let's just start with LinkedIn. What does like great LinkedIn targeting look like in your mind?
Yeah, in my mind is having a list of target accounts. And when I say target accounts is not only companies you want to do business with, it needs to be companies you want to do business with, but you need to be realistic, right? Everyone wants to go after Google, Meta, but can your company actually support them? What happens if one of those companies closes? And also too, like, do you actually have the budget to go after those companies? So yes, you need to have a list of target accounts, ideally aligned with your sales teams, but that list, first of all, needs to take into account your budget. And then it needs to be a realistic list. And then is reverse engineering and speaking with sales and knowing what are the titles you guys want to get in touch with. What are the, like, if I was to get you this person at this company in a 30-minute call with you, what would be the ideal title? And I guess that's how you can start having those conversations with them. Because yes, even on LinkedIn, if you want to get more tactical, even if you're going after job titles, it can be a little bit broad right now, depending on the title. But I still think it's the best option at the moment. List of target accounts and then job titles. That would be the best starting point for sure.
Yeah, so that's super, super specific. So it's VP of marketing who works at Salesforce.
Yeah.
So you're combining the two things together. I agree. I think one other point as well in terms of not just who you can sell into is also taking into consideration the company sizes. So when the company is too large, like you mentioned, everyone wants to work with Google or, you know, Meta, whatever these companies are. If they're so large, they'll cannibalize your budget. So oftentimes, if you have a list of accounts that you're interested in, break it out. So it's like my tier 1, my tier 2, my tier 3, right? Or my A, B's, and C's. So maybe, because I think more often than account creation, where people struggle is account prioritization. They're like, oh, I've got this list of 500 accounts. They're perfect. You know, they're vetted by sales, etc. But then they don't take into consideration that how much money do I actually need to invest to be able to get in front of enough of these accounts to drive enough volume and more the math side of things. They don't really factor that into it. And one easy starting point is just get smaller. So it's like if you can separate those lists of accounts into those 3 tiers based on priority and impact, most likely to close in terms of win rates, largest deal sizes, things like this, then that helps you prioritize it a little bit further. And then the next step there is if they can layer the account list even further with signals, it can dwindle that list down even further to drive even higher quality targeting. So for context, like maybe you have a list of 100 accounts you get down to, and they're like the perfect, you know, dream accounts. But then you can layer in on top which of those accounts actually have a previous champion that you worked with. Now it goes down from like 100 to 50. You know, you're like, oh, wait a second, this is getting nice, right? And then you dwindle it down even further, and now you have 30 accounts. And then when you run the math based on your CPM and your frequency, you realize like, oh, wait a second, it's not going to take us 100K a month to do this. Maybe we only need like 15, 20, 30, right? And then from there, you can get your first wins and get that traction from a targeting perspective. But yeah, I totally agree on the titles and the account list. And for everyone that doesn't have an account list, I think in today's age with like ChatGPT, you can literally get an account list generated in ChatGPT. You can go in there and you can say, hey, provide me an export of companies that look like this. Like there's really no excuse now not to have one. You also have Sales Navigator, right? Where you can generate lists. There's a bunch of other tools, but those are like the most accessible. So definitely have an account list, and you know you did targeting well when the impression itself is valuable.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing too, is like, especially when it's like ABM and, you know, going up market and all these things, like attribution becomes fuzzy, right? So one of the things that we always say internally, and like we preface, is like, if we never generated any last click conversions, no direct leads, and it was just impressions and clicks that you had to justify this investment, are the impressions itself worth it? And if the answer is no, then you probably didn't nail the targeting.
It often is, yeah.
And it often is, yeah. And on LinkedIn, the tool that comes to my mind is like the audience insights tool. So you can preload your account list, your job titles, and you can already see who are the people in that list and kind of get a sense of the quality before launching your campaigns. So it's super powerful. And one other thing I'll close on is people have a bias to default to the targeting, especially B2B marketers, where we're always chasing the next tech or the next tool or the best, latest audience. One thing you can do is just launch a pilot campaign. So just spend like $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is for you to generate one lead, that break-even cost per lead. So like if you can spend up to $3,000 for a demo or a trial, spend up to that and just run something like an offer that can convert on cold traffic, like an ebook, something very easy, and you basically just launch this little pilot campaign against the audience, and then you start to get conversions. And now you can see the titles, the companies, etc., of who's converting So it'll already kind of give you a sense of like the audience quality and the targeting piece before committing too much. And this is so helpful when you're running ads outside of LinkedIn and you're doing this on Meta, on YouTube, on Reddit, you know what I mean? And these types of channels where you don't have such precise targeting, you can run these little pilot plays and get signals and feedback. Like back in 2021, I wanted to see, can you reach B2B buyers on TikTok? And I ran this little ad basically calling out B2B marketers in the ad copy. And then it was just like swipe up to, or swipe left, I think is the mechanic on TikTok, to sign up for my newsletter. And I used like a lead gen form. It was the worst experience ever. But I just did it to see like who would sign up, you know? And then I measured like the quality of the titles coming in. And I was shocked. Like you could actually reach some good people on TikTok, you know, for a B2B audience, which was really interesting.
Yeah. That's another thing too. You're selling to people. So yeah, whether they're in a more like professional network or they're on TikTok, they're on Meta, they're still around.
Yeah.
The challenge is if you can reach them effectively. So, and that's a good too. And also one thing that I was reminding myself was, if you are unsure if which titles you should be prioritizing, or if, as many other companies, your relation with sales isn't the best, one thing you can do too is you can export your list of customers and you can upload them to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn gives you access to pretty much what you were saying around the demographic insights, but for that specific list. So you can spot check the list of titles from your audience. Even if you're operating a really specific niche, you can even check member skills, member groups. Although I'm not a really big fan, I know some of our clients have seen some success with it, depending on their ICPs. So that can be a good way to go to as well. If you don't have a solid list, a solid starting point, or you do it the other way around. You just start by excluding the titles you don't want seeing, and you start there with the exclusions as well.
So let's pretend, I think this would be a cool segment here for this episode. Let's pretend I'm a client, and you had to advise me on how to nail my targeting. So I think we definitely covered LinkedIn, use account lists, start with titles, and really make sure you preview the audience and nail that. Let's focus on Google and Meta, because those are the two other big ones. So I'm a new client starting, and I'm like, hey, Gonzalo, like, help me get good quality leads on Google. Where does your brain go?
High intent keywords, using exact match types. The thing is, that's not a secret anymore. So high intent keywords, yes, but with Google, the challenge is you can't control who's on the other side of the screen. Silvio might be the right fit, but I might be searching for the same keyword as Silvio. So, and I'm a tire kicker. I suck, like I'm unemployed, I'm retired, whatever. Although with high intent keywords, you won't get retired, but you get the point. So for sure, high intent keywords. But when you're talking about lead quality, the way I would advise you is, first of all, understanding what you mean by lead quality. Because I can get you quality leads from Google when you look at titles, but then, but these guys work at companies with 1 to 10 employees. I don't care about these guys. So understanding what you mean by quality is important, because if you're targeting enterprises, for example, and you want Google to drive you leads, maybe we need to adjust that expectation, because 10, 15, 20% of the leads you get on Google are from enterprises. The others aren't. So then it's a matter, okay, can I afford getting an enterprise lead from Google, or is it more expensive, cheaper than LinkedIn or not? Because titles isn't usually the problem if you're targeting high intent keywords, very, very specific like CRM software. But then the companies where those people work at, or the size of those companies is usually the issue from what I see with the clients. So that would be like, yes, nailing the list of high intent keywords. If I'm new to your business, I would ask you, what are the 5 to 8 top keywords you wanted to show up for? And maybe you won't give me like the high intent ones, but from the list you share with me, because you know the business better than I do, I can advise you on how you can best select or align your keyword strategy to fit your goals. But then it's okay diving a little bit deeper into what you're actually looking to accomplish. Because we have several clients that want to get leads from Google, but then when you look at their targeting on LinkedIn, they're targeting enterprises.
Yeah.
And then they say lead quality on Google sucks, or then they say, oh, our leads on LinkedIn are so much more expensive than on Google. They might, but the problem is that on Google, most of the leads you get are from small companies. So that's why they're cheaper most of the time, right? So if we don't align that from the start, that will lead to a lot of tough conversations.
So if you're going,
process.
just unpack that. So you're saying if you're going upper mid-market enterprise, like Google is already kind of a bit of a losing game.
I mean, I wouldn't say losing game, but it's more like aligning the expectations. Because if when you reverse engineer your numbers and we know we can pay, I don't know, 5,000 per lead on Google from an enterprise company, maybe you're getting leads at 5,000 on Google, but you can't expect is out of 20 leads complaining that, oh, only 1 or 2 were from an enterprise, because that might happen. But as long as you're still within that threshold that we set, we need to be aligned that that's not a problem. It's like you're fishing and you're not always getting the good fish, right? You get some junk in between. But as long as you align on that expectation, I think it's important. So it's not a losing game, but yeah, if you're tight on budget, maybe LinkedIn is the best starting point for you, because to your point, then even if you're not getting any leads at all, at least you know you're only targeting the right people.
Right. You brought up a good point around expectations of like how often can you get quality versus no quality. And I think it's super important for people to understand that you're never going to get 100% quality all the time, especially as you scale outside of LinkedIn. You're going to have to get used to different channels performing at different levels of accuracy. And if you ever want to scale big, you have to get okay with that, because ultimately what you're looking for the cumulative performance across the channels working together that will drive more volume, right, in relation to the percentage that will convert into quality. And on LinkedIn, if you're not getting quality already, that's a big red flag, because LinkedIn is the easiest place to get actual quality. So if you can't nail it there, there's something fundamentally wrong. Like, you have to fix the targeting, like we're talking about. Google, to your point, to get quality, it's high intent, exact match, right? You're showing up for these keywords. And if you're not getting these people to convert with exact match and these high intent phrases, there's probably something wrong with the landing page or the ad copy, right? It's not resonating, it's not converting, etc. And then from there, once you've proven out, hey, this is converting, this is working, now you can scale vertically, where now you go phrase match, broad match. Broad match is actually working for some accounts quite well right now.
And that's what I was gonna add. Like, even with exact match, yes, if it's not converting at all, it's a red flag. But if what we're seeing with some clients, it's that just because everyone knows you should go with high intent keywords, exact match, it's getting expensive. So even with phrase match or broad match, to your point, even if the quality isn't the same, just because it's the numbers game, sometimes it's a better use of your money, or in addition to exact match, than just relying on exact match at all. And I'm talking about $80 CPCs, like $7,000 CPL. And maybe with a phrase match, broad match, you get like 1.5K, 2K. Isn't one-to-one in terms of quality, but for some clients it's working, so it's definitely worth the shot. Not as a starting point, but as a next step, I would say.
So just to be mindful of time, let's quickly touch on Meta and driving lead quality on Meta, and then I want to segue us to creative and driving. How does creative factor into actually driving quality? And then finally offers, and how should you be thinking about offers in terms of like actually driving the right quality leads? So just what is your take right now in terms of Meta as a channel and its ability to drive quality leads?
Yeah, I know that we have 1 or 2 clients seeing some success on Meta, but yeah, I'm not 100% sold. To your point, the way I advise clients is, okay, let's run a pilot, let's see what the lead quality looks like. And then again, similar to Google, you're not expecting 100% of the leads to be quality, but if half of them are, and just the fact that the leads on Meta are so much cheaper, it can be worth it. But again, you need to be prepared to see a lot of junk coming in. Maybe your sales team, I don't think they would treat those leads anyway, but sometimes just the fact that they see those bad titles come in already starts some uncomfortable conversations internally. But yeah, with Meta, I would say it's a bit hit or miss. It's definitely worth the try as any channel when you're looking to expand outside of LinkedIn especially. But yeah, it's really hit or miss. And it's aligned with what you're saying. from my experience, creatives is definitely plays a big piece. That's also to what our creative team is focused on when clients are running ads on Meta. Like the messaging needs to be super specific because you get a lot of clicks. A lot of people fill out those easy to fill forms, right?
Yeah.
But then sales reaches out. These guys don't even remember filling it out in the first place, or maybe they put like job title, they put that, you know what I mean? So, and that's a challenge too, by the way, not to get off topic, but like with Meta, you might be targeting the right, like let's say I want to target a founder, a CEO, and you fill out the form, but you need to manually input your title. So you can just put like, I don't know, DJ.
Yeah.
So you're still the right guy, the right person, but just because you put DJ,
You get disqualified.
yeah. So that's the thing too. And so that's something, there are specific nuances to keep in mind on Meta, but definitely worth a shot, especially if you either have those capabilities in-house or you're working with creative teams, external teams, to really hit the messaging on the creative side of things. More so than the targeting, I would say creative is the most important thing on Meta.
Yeah, and with Meta, it's much more about algorithmic bidding and letting the auction and the algorithm do the heavy lifting for you. So typically you're having much larger audience sizes, and then you're running your ads, and your ads themselves act as the mechanism of like filtering the right people. So meaning the copy, the script of the video, if it's a video ad, etc., speaks to the person you're interested in. So for example, like when I ran that ad on TikTok, I was using broad targeting, but the same fundamentals would apply to Meta, where in the video I was saying, hey, if you're a B2B marketer and you're interested in learning more about ads, and then I segued into the newsletter pitch. The same is true with Meta. Like you're going broader, and then you're leveraging the algorithm to do a lot of this. And it also requires a much more conversion events. So the algorithm can optimize towards your favor. Just a couple quick notes on targeting for everyone that's interested in Meta. I am seeing a lot of success with it in the dev space. I've heard some good things from like AdConversion community students where they're saying like they're crushing it on Meta in the dev space and like engineering and things like this. So it's definitely worth a shot. And if you are getting started, easiest place is just upload your list and then create a 1 or 2% lookalike, very tactically speaking. The second thing you can do is you can use a third-party tool like Metadata, Clearbit, SafePrimer, and then they can basically upload lists into Meta so you can replicate some level of account-based targeting on that platform. So just a couple of quick tactics for everyone. Let's quickly touch on creative. So I kind of alluded to it a little bit of creative and like how it impacts your targeting so effectively, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I would say it does the heavy lifting for you. To your point, even if it's it's a lookalike. The lookalike, as far as I understand, the lookalike is based on that those people behavior, right? Not necessarily their titles. So people, I mean, it's tricky because on Meta, even with lookalikes, like even 1%, to your point, sometimes it's hit or miss. And it really depends on the offer too and the expectations. Like we had this client that they were running campaigns for an event, a virtual event, and they got a ton of leads on Meta. Of course, quality wasn't the same as LinkedIn, but we're talking about $12, $14 leads at like a 67% quality rate, which is pretty cool, especially knowing that on LinkedIn they were paying $60, $70. So I think offer on top of creative also plays a piece, but still the messaging needs to be on point. Creative does the heavy lifting for you there. And if you try to follow the trend, especially on TikTok, you have those split screens or people playing games, cutting fruit or something. Yes, you get people's attention. They will consume your content. You'll be paying for those. It's cheap, but ultimately that will send the bad signals to the algorithm. And one thing to add, not just about creative, but campaign objectives there, from what I see, are even more important than on LinkedIn because on Meta you get so many more signals that the campaign objectives, from what I've seen, matter a lot. Like you can be running top of the funnel campaigns, optimizing for website conversions as long as you have those events, because then you're giving Meta the signals that, okay, even if you're not expecting these folks to convert right away, because you're not, at least Meta will be forced to show the ads to people with a greater likelihood of making that event. And it can be a form submission, it can be a registration for an event, whatever it is. But the more indications, the more thresholds you set there help you. And I know this carried a little bit outside of the creative topic, but I really don't have much to add on top of
Yeah.
of it. Like it really does the heavy lifting. So you need to continuously test. You need to be careful because it's not like LinkedIn where you can split your budget across all the ads, so you get learnings. Each ad gets pretty much the same delivery. It's not like that. So you need to be smart when testing. We have this person internally that they're running a lot of ads at our company for a client on Meta, and it just splits the campaigns, the ads by ad sets. So that way you can control the budget at the ad set level. It's not the ideal setup. It's more time consuming, but ultimately it's just looking to get learnings faster, optimize what's working, pause what's not. And on Meta too, the challenge that you might have if you're testing a lot is the creative team ships 5 ads, you launch all 5, and then 2 of them get delivery. The other 3 don't even see the daylight. And that's why too, yes, you need to be testing a lot on Meta especially, but you have to be mindful with the campaign setup, because otherwise your team is creating a lot of good ads and they don't even get a chance, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's a good point. I want to just close on offers, because I think of all the areas that we talked about in terms of targeting, creative channels, offers is the number one most important thing that impacts ultimately the success of a campaign. The offer is what is on the other side of the ad click. So this is the thing that people are actually signing up for. And this is also the greatest opportunity for B2B. And we kind of think about offers and coming up with different offers. And the process of that, we call it offer engineering internally. And essentially, one of the ways offers comes into play is not just who you get to convert, but where they are in their buyer's journey. And the offer is a way for you to not just get the VP of marketing at Salesforce to sign up, but get the VP of marketing at Google who is in market and actually looking for a solution to convert. So let me give you like an example, and this is usually what I explain to clients. It's if we were going to get leads for ourselves for AdConversion, right? If I was running a webinar and I ran a webinar on the topic how to get started with LinkedIn ads, and I promoted that to a perfect list of accounts, job titles, yeah, sure, I can get VPs of marketing and CMOs to sign up, but the time from them signing up to scheduling a demo might be 6-9 months in the future. Maybe I get lucky and I get a few of them to sign up sooner that happen to be in market. Versus if I ran another offer, the same webinar, but instead I positioned it as how to fix your LinkedIn ads ROAS in the next 60 days, and I launched that offer to the same list of accounts, same titles, etc., the people who sign up for the second one are going to be far more likely to actually schedule a demo in the future. Why? The offer implies they're running ads on LinkedIn. It implies their ads are not doing very well, right? And that they need to solve it now, right? And they want that immediacy within the next 60 days. So there's a whole breadth of opportunity in terms of thinking about offers and getting creative and just putting a different spin on things and actually thinking about the entire experience and not just, oh, I signed up for an ebook, they didn't become an SQL, you know? And it's like, whoa, let's just unpack
Gated
that.
content
You know what I mean?
sucks.
Like, yeah, gated content sucks. It's like, wait a second. Like, 1, what was the ebook on, right? 2, what was the actual experience for the user? And 3, was the ebook and the format actually substantial enough to pre-fame the prospect, right? To build enough affinity and trust around the problem so that they could actually convert into the thing that you want, which is like actual demos or trials. So offers is a massive piece, and I know we're over time here, so we'll close it out there. Thanks so much for watching this episode. If today's combo hit home for you and you want to go deeper, check out adconversion.com. You'll find free courses, a killer advertising community, and if you're ready to scale, we'd love to work with you.